Ah yes, the NFL and its never-ending trade-offs, this time sort of unwelcome to the Carolina Panthers. Or so we thought, with Robbie Anderson pushing back at Baker Mayfield being added to his team. But things seem to have taken a turn, and in this video, we'll be talking about Anderson's new and improved feelings about him. Let's jump in. First up, Robbie Anderson's initial disapproval towards Mayfield joining the Panthers. Back in April, the fan-favorite Carolina Panthers wide receiver Robbie Anderson interacted with a post that made it pretty obvious how he felt about Baker landing in the Panthers. Let's be real, the wide receiver's pretty much known for his aloof social media presence. He never really holds back when it comes to voicing what he thinks. Only a couple of days before this incident, a tweet of his was misconstrued, and people thought he was shading Sam Darnold until he clarified he wasn't doing anything of the sort. The point is, he's got quite the presence on sites like Twitter and Instagram. So naturally, when he came across a report from the NFL Network's Ian Rappaport stating that the Cleveland Browns quarterback would probably land in Carolina, he didn't hesitate before commenting a "no" under the post. The post was by a fan account too, mind you. Anderson truly doesn't care. He made it pretty clear how he felt about such a prospect. There was no possible way to misconstrue his comment. If that wasn't enough, he put the last nail in the coffin by following up on another post from another fan account, basically confirming he wasn't cool with the change. Unfortunately for Anderson, Mayfield was the most viable option for the Panthers' 2022 season, so whatever qualms he had with the quarterback needed to be set aside. But why the aversion to Baker? It's quite simple actually. The NFL is a very small world at the end of the day. Players talk to other players, interact, gossip, the works. Words get around like fire. Weirdly enough, not a single Cleveland Browns player has spoken out on the quarterback's behalf. And after the offseason that the Browns had, this is not reassuring at all. The quarterback, on the other hand, went public with how he thought the Browns disrespected him when he was part of the team. And well, this garnered radio silence from the rest of the team. Surprise, surprise. So it's not exactly a secret that the quarterback and his team weren't on the best terms. This makes Anderson's animosity with him even more intriguing. He possibly knows something we don't. Maybe he spoke to someone who's played with Mayfield, like Odell Beckham Jr., or maybe Jarvis Landry, who was even spotted talking to Anderson. Whatever it may be, there's the niggling feeling that the wide receiver might not have been the only Panther to think so, or even the only other NFL player to think so. Maybe all the other teams felt the same way too, which wouldn't look good at all for him. However, as fate has it, the quarterback did end up landing in Carolina. But why did he leave the Browns in the first place? How did he feel about leaving his team? In a lengthy episode of the YNK podcast where the quarterback was featured, he finally broke his silence on what his reasoning was behind leaving the Browns. It's no secret that the Browns had to let go of the star since he was owed too much money for them to take on his fifth-year contract for a single season. So, after months of ruminating, the Panthers were to be the trade partner, taking only $5 million of Baker's contract, leaving him a free agent after this season. The Browns in return got a conditional 2024 fifth-round pick for trading the former first overall draft picks to the Panthers. So when Mayfield expressed feelings slighted by Cleveland on the podcast episode, we couldn't not sympathize. According to him, what they did wasn't part of the plan they told him about. In fact, they did the complete opposite, and it left the quarterback feeling disrespected. However, he was pretty clear when he said he didn't have any regrets during his time with the Browns and was simply looking for a stable position. The question remained though, would Mayfield cooperate with the efforts to trade him so he could choose his next team? Given his feelings about the situation, honestly, it was kind of expected that he wouldn't really surrender easily, with his team trying to treat him like another pawn in the game. He must have done something right though, because Robbie Anderson's done a full 180 on his feelings towards the quarterback. Now, for how the Browns ex-QB and the Panthers wide receiver are getting along. Apparently, Robbie's initial reaction to Mayfield joining Carolina was, you guessed it, also misconstrued. According to the wide receiver, he was simply pushing back at the decision out of respect for his own quarterback, Sam Darnold, because after the deal between Carolina and Cleveland materialized, he took care to clarify that he didn't have any problems. He was just trying to be a good teammate to Darnold. So his apparent aversion to Baker taking Sam's position was simply the veteran wide receiver standing up for the guy who plays the middle role in my back. Couldn't have said it better ourselves. Now that he's the Panthers' new QB, the question remains, how is he getting on with the team members? Well, we seemingly have nothing to worry about because the former Browns QB seems to have found unwavering support in the form of Anderson himself. After the first two joint training sessions that the Panthers had with the Patriots, the wide receiver took to speaking to reporters. Of course, his new buddy Baker came up, and he was gushing praise for the quarterback. Anderson expressed his admiration for Mayfield, commending his ability to gel into a new discipline so quickly, while showcasing his excellent leadership qualities and establishing himself in the team. Not only is he smart, but according to the veteran wide receiver, he's confident, driven, conducts himself well, and has good energy all around. So what could be next for Carolina with their new quarterback? And it's not like Anderson's making empty statements either. Mayfield's been just as brilliant on the field. On Saturday afternoon only, he led the Panthers on a 13-play scoring drive in the preseason opener game against Washington. What's more is how he connected with his other top target, DJ Moore, to score a gorgeous 50-yard deep ball in Foxborough on Tuesday. Talk about being on fire. Naturally, the veteran wide receiver can't wait to get going with the quarterback, saying he's excited to see the quarterback in action when throwing downfield. Sam Darnold, we think it may be time for you to move on. This week in particular, it's pretty important in the Panthers' ongoing quarterback competition. Previously, Coach Matt Rhule expressed how he wouldn't name a starting player until the team's preseason game against the Patriots. He explained that the significance of seeing two callers battling another team in practice was too much for him to do, since it's the one way the coaching staff could get a better view of where each player should be on the offense. As for Darnold and Mayfield, they've split first-team shots throughout their training camp so far. Baker, though, got the start in the team's preseason opener against the leaders. But then Rhule made sure to emphasize that his start was only for that day. No need to get too comfortable then. And finally, what could change for Carolina with their new QB? When it comes to Anderson, he's definitely one of the players in Carolina that have been hoping for a bounce back this year. After putting up 1,096 yards 2 years ago during Rhule's first year as head coach, he went through a bit of a drop-off period last year. And though he was able to make his touchdown production from 3 to 5 last year, his receiving yards unfortunately fell by more than half. He only managed to put up 519. But that's not entirely on him. The team was in a pretty deep mess at quarterback last year, with 3 different players starting their games, including Darnold, who completed under 60% of his passes and covered just 2,527 yards the entire season. Rough times for the Panthers for sure, but things are different now with Baker Mayfield, the same guy who took the Cleveland Browns back to being contenders. And well, if he did it once, he can definitely do it again. Last but not least, Mayfield's prior achievements. It's no secret that Mayfield played a giant role in helping the Browns be known as a serious NFL team instead of a laughingstock. To put it into perspective, they were at 131 in the 2 seasons before the man arrived. Pretty humiliating to say the least. Baker, their knight in shining armor, played more than his part in the proceedings, throwing 14,125 yards and 92 touchdowns, along with 61.6% of complete passes during his time with Cleveland. Of course, all due credit goes to other players too, like Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, or Myles Garrett's competent defense. But at the end of the day, it was the quarterback's drive and determination that tied the team together. On top of that, his attitude was so refreshing that it played a massive role in motivating the team, making it so successful that people genuinely thought it could contend in the Super Bowl. With the Panthers having gone 5-12 last season, we've got our fingers crossed Mayfield pulls through, and it seems like he will. He's in his element here. He's definitely conquered worse before. Well, that's a wrap for this video. See you in the next one.